The human Imperium fights its galactic wars on a massive, highly visible scale. Across millions of worlds, humanity's vast armies hold the line against recognizable threats, like literal tides of tyrannid insect swarms or roaring orc hordes. But deep in the void, there is a secondary tier of enemies. These are hidden, anomalous horrors that ignore standard battle lines entirely, lurking in deep space or infiltrating populations without firing a single shot. To understand these obscure species, the Ordo Xenos, the Inquisition's dedicated alien hunting division, abandons military strategy. Instead, they categorize these threats strictly by the biological and psychic mechanisms they use to inflict terror. You cannot stop a psychic plague or a living shadow with a genetically engineered space marine and a heavy bolter. Surviving these anomalies requires dissecting the specific, terrifying science behind how they operate. The first classification centers on biological subversion, the flesh hijackers. These species weaponize their victims, turning human biology into a tool for parasitic control. Consider the Ahareth, documented in imperial records as the bone drinkers. These creatures are colonies of fungal parasites that slowly dissolve the marrow of their victims. They keep their prey alive for days, carefully extracting nutrients and psychic residue straight from the nervous system. This diagram demonstrates why conventional warfare fails against them. The Ahareth operate on a single shared psychic fungal network. If a colony is erased, a single surviving spore can regenerate the entire bloom. Breaking the cycle required the Alpha Legion to engineer a highly specific bioweapon to sever this shared consciousness. Then there are the Sloth. Their own biology is constantly decaying, leaking necrotic fluid. To stay alive, they consume neural tissue, draining minds of memories and skills, before using alien enzymes to stitch the remaining bone and metal into silent, reanimated puppet armies. The Lacrial execute their hijackings through mimicry. Their true form is an amorphous mass of shifting flesh, but by feeding on human blood, they achieve a perfect biological shapeshift, coalescing into flawless physical and vocal replicas of their victims. During the Achilles Crusade, the Lacrial bypassed heavy security to infiltrate a Death Watch kill team, a squad of elite alien hunting veterans. Disguised as trusted allies, the Lacrial systematically dismantled the highly trained unit from the inside, picking them off one by one. Flesh hijackers render the Imperium's massive military formations useless. They turn human anatomy and the trust soldiers place in each other into a fatal vulnerability. The second category bypasses biology altogether to distort physical space, time, and the environment. These are the reality benders. The Rude, often called the Frood, are a subterranean, nocturnal species. Instead of firing projectiles, they project a passive, time-accelerating aging field into the environment around them. Encountering a Rude migration has immediate, devastating consequences. Veteran soldiers caught in their proximity age 50 years in a single week, while pristine rifle barrels blister before crumbling into rust in seconds. The Umbra present a totally different environmental hazard. They appear as floating spheres of absolute darkness, drawn instinctively to the warp drives of starships traveling through the void. Once aboard, the Umbra strike by manipulating shadows into razor-sharp physical weapons against trapped crews. Their bodies are only partial reflections of a larger entity hidden outside of real space, and their singular biological weakness is exposure to light. Against reality benders, standard-issue combat gear is completely ineffective. These species turn the invisible passage of time and the absence of light into efficient executioners. The final and most dangerous classification relies on the warp, the galaxy's alternate dimension of chaotic energy, to inflict madness and hijack consciousness. These are the soul corruptors. The ancient Uvoth Empire left behind twisted relics made of white crystal. Simply studying these artifacts induces severe auditory hallucinations, actively twisting the minds of tech priests and steering them toward the worship of chaos. The Sarui, or Saruthi, exist with a completely bizarre sensory-deprived biology. They lack eyes and ears, perceiving reality entirely through smell and taste while navigating artificial pocket dimensions called tetrascapes. But the ultimate psychic threat belongs to the enslavers. These floating horrors resemble a hybrid of a jellyfish and a spider, their bodies covered in tendrils humming with immense psychic power. This diagram visualizes their horrific method of invasion. Enslavers specifically target human psychers, mutants capable of channeling warp energy. They forcefully hijack their minds to fracture their physical forms, turning the victim into a literal open dimensional gateway. Through these living portals, more enslavers pour into real space. The infestation spreads exponentially, seizing control of millions of minds and wiping out entire planetary populations in a matter of days. Soul corruptors execute the ultimate violation. They require no drop pods or landing craft. They use humanity's own minds and bodies as the beachhead for a galactic invasion. Standard military doctrine collapses entirely against enemies that break the laws of physics. During the Great Crusade, the legendary Blood Angels Legion landed on the planet Murder to fight an ancient species of towering metallic spiders known as the megarachnids and were slaughtered to the last man. The megarachnids isolated the Space Marines by utilizing massive artificial storm trees. These weather machines instantly severed communications and physically tore apart incoming landing craft in the atmosphere. It took the Imperium 6 months of brutal extermination, deploying towering mechanical war machines called Titans to burn the planet's forests, to finally defeat the megarachnids. You cannot deploy a Titan to shoot a shapeshifter, shoot an aging field, or burn a living shadow. When conventional weapons fail, the Imperium is left with a singular, apocalyptic failsafe. If an anomaly like an enslaver infestation spreads too far, the only tactical response is exterminatus, the complete orbital annihilation of the infected planet. The front lines of the 41st millennium are a fragile layer of protection. While the Imperium watches for invading fleets, these anomalies have already bypassed the walls, nesting in the marrow, the shadows, and the thoughts of the very soldiers meant to fight them.